So here with Joey McGuire, head coach of the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Coach, before we get into kind of your journey through coaching, I want to know the scouting report of Joey McGuire, the football player back at Crowley High School.
Big effort guy. That was mine. Big effort guy. You know, the one thing I do think everybody would say is a team player. You know, I loved everything about football, locker room, the workouts, being around the guys, and then probably football wise, I don't know how good I was, but I was definitely a big effort guy.
How early did you know you wanted to get into coaching? Was it already in high school? Was it even before that? Was it in college? Kind of when did the bug kind of catch you?
You know, it's crazy. My dad, he's Coach McGuire in Crowley. He coached, you know, everybody, and even in Texarkana, we lived in Texarkana. He coached all kinds of different sports and coached me and my sister and everybody else. And so I helped him a lot whenever just different times he needed another first base coach or, you know, whatever, whenever I was in high school. And I really loved it. But it was kind of a deal. It's like my mom and most of her side are in the medical field, and I wanted to be a CRNA, or I thought I did. And so I literally was getting ready to start nursing school. I'd finished all my prereqs, and I just kept getting this pull of, man, you're supposed to coach. You're supposed to coach. So I flipped I changed my major, and you know, I'm glad I did, but changed my major and graduated from UTA, and then started substituting while I was doing my alternative certification at Crowley. And that's really kind of how I got started.
And then it didn't take you all that long to become a head coach, you know, like relatively speaking at Cedar Hill there. What is it like to be a head coach for the first time?
Man, I lost about 16 pounds, you know, just working nonstop. You know, it was funny. And she's one of my best friends, and I think one of the best ADs to ever be an athletic director in Texas is Gina Farmer. You know, I was probably about a month on the job, and she was like, Joey, it's going to be here tomorrow. You're killing yourself. And we hadn't even come close to playing a game yet. You need to go home, and it'll be here tomorrow, or start delegating some different stuff. And so I think that first time you're a head coach, you want to make sure you're right. You're doing everything right. You're covering all your bases. And at that time, I guess I wasn't smart enough to let some of my other coaches do some stuff. And so I was really like taking on anything and everything. And now I'm one of those people, I always say yes. And so I was going everywhere, trying to be at the Rotary Club, at the Lions Club, at, you know, everything that needed to be done as a head coach. And so it was stressful. I would not change it for the world. I had a blast every moment, but I learned a lot in those first couple months being a head coach.
You know, people my age consider Cedar Hill like this football powerhouse, right? But it wasn't always that way. It had never been to playoffs before you got there. I have your record right here. You went 141-42 over 14 seasons, won 3 state titles. I'm curious, which team was the best, right? If we could put any of those teams on 06, 12, 14, like which of those teams kind of were the best on the field?
Well, I'm never, you know, you got to say 06. 06 went 16-0. They were the first, like, you know, like when you went to 12 and 13 and 14, those guys were already like, we are Cedar Hill. And so when they stepped off the bus, there was already this mystique of having to play us. And in 2006, nobody knew who we were, you know, nobody expected anything from us. And so they kind of carried this burden of, you know, the unknown and being 16-0. I think they would, you know, definitely say they were the best. They would be, you know, they were tough to handle. Every one of those teams had their own identity. I always tell everybody I'm as proud as any team in the 2012 team where we lost the state championship. Just because I think up until that point, we were still kind of known as this one-hit wonder. We were a powerhouse program, but we couldn't win it again. And getting back to that state championship game kind of validated everything that we were doing there at Cedar Hill.
Was it harder to get the program kind of going and get that first state title, or was it harder towards the end where you had to kind of keep it going with all those expectations?
Well, that is a great question. And I go back and forth with that answer. I mean, it's kind of like it's kind of like the chicken and the egg, because it's hard to win and it's hard to build those expectations. But I think it's harder to sustain winning. When you can sustain winning, because people get satisfied, people, just kind of expect things. And so I think if you watch a lot of teams, they've got that one good year and then they can't sustain it whenever they have. And it's like, they're living on the success, or they kind of relax and take a deep breath. And so honestly, I think sustaining winning over a long period of time is tougher than getting it turned around.
Like I said, 14 seasons at Cedar Hill. You probably could have stayed there, forever, or stayed in high school football, however long you wanted to. What were the motivations or reasons that you wanted to explore coaching in college?
Well, it's funny you say that, because the morning I woke up to interview with Matt Rule, my wife literally said, "You're not going to take the job. You're going to be at Cedar Hill for the rest of your life." And literally, if I would be at Cedar Hill for the rest of my life, I'd be the happiest person in the world. Man, I love that place. And we just, we had such great support. I had such great administration and the coaching staff. We had been together for so long, but, it was almost like, for me, I needed something different. I needed something new I'm a lifelong learner. I pride myself on that. And not that I was really getting in a rut, because I wanted to, Mike, me, man, I want to win. So it was like every day was a challenge to find a way to motivate these guys and everything. But it got to a point to where I was like, it's time for me to do something different. And it was perfect timing. If I was going to do it, my daughter had already graduated and she was in college, and my son was getting ready to go to college. So it was perfect timing for me to be able to do something different and step out into the college world.
You and I have kind of talked about this before, but was it tough to kind of check the ego at the door, going from head coach, 3-time state champion, to tight end coach, right? Like, how do you kind of take that step backwards? Probably the wrong way to put it, but how do you kind of go about kind of changing your mindset?
Well, Coach Rule asked me that. He goes, "How are you going to do this?" And I told him, I said, "Well, I listened to my wife. She's my boss. I listened to Gina Farmer. She's my boss. I have a superintendent that tells me exactly what I need to do." I said, "I've been a good soldier, and I think we aligned." Honestly, I just got off the phone with him, literally just got off the phone with him. And I don't know if I've ever aligned with another coach the way I did with Coach Rule. So I think if it would have been somebody else, it would have been a struggle. But, I learned so much from him. But it was also, we would come into the office and he would say, "Hey, here's what we're going to do." And I was like, man, in my mind, it's like, that's exactly what we should be doing. So it was easier probably to, follow him and be that assistant coach. I would have probably struggled with somebody that, well, number one, I don't think I would have taken a job with somebody just to take a job and be in college that I wasn't aligned with. But honestly, I don't know if I've ever aligned with another person like Matt Rule.
What was it about him, right? Like, you're not the only person I've heard in the coaching ranks just kind of like sing the praises of Matt Rule. What made him so special, or what makes him so special?
Well, first he puts the players first, and that's genuine. That's not some, kind of catchphrase or logo or anything like that. Like, he genuinely puts the players first. He's got a great plan to graduate kids in 3.5 years, and he wants them to be working on their masters. And so there was so many things off the field. He holds them very accountable of the way they carry themselves, the way they treat women. And so that was huge. And then the toughness, at Cedar Hill, I'll remember a good friend of mine came and watched us practice. It was in round 3 and it was on a Tuesday practice. And he was like, "My God, y'all hit during practice." And I was like, "Well, that's probably why you're watching and not coaching right now. This is a physical sport and we're going to do it smart and we're going to have a quick whistle, but we're going to be physical during practice. And so that's how Coach Rule, it was like everything lined up that, man, I wanted to be a part of this guy's staff. And so, I still go back because that's how I am. It's all about the players. Like at the end of the day, we had a staff meeting this morning and I told them again, we have 3 kind of main things in our program. And I said, if you can't recite these, if you don't know them by heart, if you can't explain them, then you're really not one of us, and the point of all that is we're going to get the football right, but that's not why we're going to win. I mean, so many people are winning with all kinds of different football X's and O's. We're going to win because our kids care about each other. We care about them, and we're going to be really tough.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you had a chance to follow Coach Rule to the NFL, correct? I guess what stopped you from doing that? What kept you in the college ranks?
Well, yeah, I did. I had a chance a couple of times. He always messes with me. He says I'm the only guy that's turned him down twice. And it's I really believe that I'm put on this earth to develop men, and not to say that you can't do that in the NFL, but when you're talking to multimillionaires and, they're at a point, to where they have families and they have their brand, it's different. I mean, I know that you can affect those guys, but not like you can high school and college players. And so I really believe that's my calling. And so that was the main reason that I didn't make the move.
Matt Rule leaves to go to the NFL. You and Dave Aranda, kind of famously the finalists there at Baylor. What did you learn from that process? And I'm assuming kind of the disappointment when you didn't get that job.
Yeah, it was really tough because, I think the biggest reason that I was so attracted to that job, one, you got a really good administration. The president and AD are first class. But the way we recruit as a staff. And so that team was recruited. I was a part of every one of those guys, recruiting wise. And, and I'm really close to my players and I love them and care about them. And so the biggest thing with that job was those guys were my babies. They were guys that we went into houses and had in-home visits and told their parents that we were going to take care of them, and making sure they're going to class and going through our academic center and checking on them. And so the attraction was, these are my guys. And, I wanted to be a part of continuing the success that we were able to build over the 3 years that we were there. So I think that was a big reason. And it was tough. And then I always tell everybody it takes a big coach and a big man to be able to allow somebody to stay whenever they've been up for the job, and not only up for the job, but the final 2. And so I give a lot of credit to Coach Aranda of what kind of person he is to, keep me and let me be in the role that I was in.
Well, and then how tough was it? I mean, we talked about checking the ego a little bit earlier, but you don't get the head coaching job, but you stay on the staff. Was there any kind of talk about leaving Baylor after that, or how did that kind of come about?
No, that was what, I had 3 opportunities to go. I'll tell you, my son was the main reason, and my son and daughter were the reason I stayed in high school for so long. But, he said, he said, Dad, I'll go anywhere you want me to go. But he was graduating in December, and he's a coach. And he said, I really want to finish what we've started here with the guys that, his class is this class that just really won the Big 12 championship. And so we stayed. He would have gone if I would have left and I had some opportunities to leave. He would have gone with me, but he really didn't want to. He wanted to finish off with those guys, the Abe Smith and the Treston Ebner and RJ Sneeds and all those guys. So, when they gave me the opportunity to stay, that was an easy decision because, this last year's been really tough. It's probably the toughest year of my life as far as dad wise, because it's the first year I've ever been away from him. And, my daughter went to Texas Tech, so she was away and everything like that with him. I mean, he left Cedar Hill and came to Baylor. So we've been together all the way up until this last year.
You know, you've never been a coordinator, right? Even at the high school level. How did you kind of go about adopting an offensive style and a defensive style that you really liked and coach?
Well, the one thing early, I mean, really early, probably my third year in coaching, it really started my first year. I was the head freshman baseball coach and, you know, fell in love with being the head coach, setting everything up. And so whenever we would have a coach leave with Coach Woods, I would ask him, so we had an outside linebacker coach leave. I'm coaching tight ends. I said, well, hey, how about hiring a tight ends coach and let me coach outside linebackers? Then our secondary coach left. And I was like, well, hey, coach, how about me coach a secondary and you hire an outside linebackers coach? And so doing all that, the reason I did that is because I want to learn the game from different positions. And so, you know, I haven't coached quarterbacks, but between the college and high school and college level, I've coached everything but running backs and receivers. And so everything on defense, and I coached the O-line and the tight ends whenever I was in high school and at Baylor. So it's just one of those deals that this was how I was going to learn and really learn the entire aspect of coaching all the positions.
We kind of see head coaches go from like coordinator to head coach, and they're married to that philosophy. And a lot of times they're hired because of that, right? You hire Steve Sarkisian at Texas to run his offense, or Dave Aranda at Baylor to run that defense. Is it an advantage to not really be kind of married to a system, quote unquote, in that way, to where you're more of a head coach than you are an offensive or a defensive play caller?
Well, I will tell you this. I think it's an advantage coming from high school to college to understanding this is what you have. And so this is your roster and how can you be successful with the guys that you have on your team and what you can do. So I think that background of putting that all together is definitely going to help. You know, I always tell, you know, I said it in our interview, there's a lot of people that are getting jobs and deservingly. I mean, like everybody's got to get a chance. Like Gina Farmer and Dr. Gibson and Holly T gave me a chance to be a head coach at Cedar Hill. So you got to have your chance. But there's a lot of guys that are getting chances because maybe the culture that was developed by the head coach and they were a part of that culture, but that was not their culture. You know, and my point was at Cedar Hill, we changed the culture and I spearheaded it. I had great offensive coordinator, great defensive coordinators, but the ideas were mine and where we wanted to go. And I think there's a lot of times, you know, guys, you know, are getting jobs off of what they've done maybe offensively or defensively, but a lot of times those teams were winning before they ever got there. You know, they might have improved them, but they were still winning before they got there. And so, that was my kind of one of my spills in my interview process is like, if you want to change this, I was a part of it at Baylor, but I was a part of it. I wasn't the guy doing it. That was Matt Rule. And so I think it's really important, you know, to see that side of it too, whenever you're talking about developing, changing cultures.
You're the fourth head coach hired at Texas Tech in the last 12 years. So speaking to that, how do you kind of go into a locker room that's had a decent amount of changes and establish that culture you want to kind of ride out for a long time?
Well, you know, it's just who we are. And we try to put it in black and white. We try to eliminate as much gray. They hear it every single day. I've hired an incredible strength staff, and one of Lance Barlow is my head strength coach. And one of his gifts is being able to take my message and put it in the weight room's message every single day. You know, our message this week is talking about mental toughness. And, you know, I've heard two of my favorite people, Phil Snow and Jeff Traylor, both talk about being mentally tough as being where your feet are right now, you know, and so that's our message of the week. And I delivered it last week during our team meeting, and Wednesday's kind of our big culture day. And Lance has such a phenomenal gift to being able to translate that into the weight room. And so I think the biggest thing is being genuine, letting these guys see who you are, care about them off the field as much as you do of what they're doing in the building, and then being consistent, being the same guy every single day. When they get to me, they're going to get the same guy no matter what. I always tell everybody, I get this from my mom, when my feet hit the floor, you got a choice, and most of the time, if you just choose to have a good day, you're going to have a good day. Even when bad things happen, you're still going to have a good day. And so, I always tell the players, and I believe this, when my feet hit the floor, I'm trying to find out how can I help them be the best version of themselves? How can I help them, the team, be the best version of them? And so they get the same guy every single day.
When I came and saw you when you first got the job, they had you, kind of tucked away at Jones Stadium in an office where you kind of had to like wave to keep the lights on and stuff. It looks like you kind of got your office going there. What were those like 6 weeks like, kind of behind the scenes for you when you're not allowed to be the coach that you're used to being, right? So
Right.
how hard was that?
Well, it was hard, really hard, because I wasn't coaching. And so that's the hardest thing, man. I love coaching. I love being on the grass. I love being a part of the day-to-day and the decision-making. But it also allowed me to really evaluate the team. It allowed me to have time to put the right staff together. And so I think we're in that spot. I feel really good about our staff we put together. I feel good about the direction that we're going with the team. And so, as tough as it was, it also allowed me to do that. And then the other thing it allowed me to do is to build relationships with some people that, probably doesn't see the head coach as much, just maybe once a week, or even like once every couple of weeks in Kirby's area and Kirby's office. It allowed me to build a lot of relationships with people that really understand Texas Tech. And so I was able to get feedback from them of things that they've seen over the last X amount of years.
You've talked about this. You're kind of a unicorn in coaching, right? Where you've only been at four stops in your whole career now, including this one right here. What made Texas Tech a place where you thought you could kind of continue on that path of finding a job and staying in that job for a really long time?
Well, you have great administrative support. You have great financial support. You have regents that are really backing the program and stepping up. So the facilities, when we get this thing going, are going to be second to none. We'll be as good as anybody in the nation. That's always good whenever you do that. We're in the state of Texas, where you have the greatest high school football being played in the nation. And so we're able to recruit the state, and you have what's good is you got such strong bordering states to recruit also. But there is I really believe there's this, West Texas blue collar, tough mindset, and I feel like in my 14 years at Cedar Hill, we had some incredible players, but we were tough. We were physical. We loved contact, and we put a lot of work in. And I felt like at times some people might not have thought it that way, but I felt like we were a blue collar team. And so my mentality and mindset, it's a perfect example. I said our brand is the toughest, hardest working, most competitive team in the country. And the President Skubanek said, well, that is West Texas. And I was like, you're exactly right. That is West Texas. And so it was a place that, I knew that it could be special. And I knew that they were serious about winning, and I wanted to be a part of that. And then I'm telling you, man, like, I don't know if y'all have heard about it or seen anything, but that Texas game the other night in basketball, just the fans. What's crazy though, is we have a junior day against Mississippi State on Saturday, and it's just as packed, and they're going just as crazy. They were doing it for a different reason, probably because of who we were playing. But you had 15,000 on a Tuesday night against Iowa State, just guys going crazy. People going crazy. So the fan base is fanatical, and they want to win. And so that, of course, drew me to this place also.
Texas Tech is the eighth program, eight out of 12 programs since 2000 that have hired a head coach that used to be a Texas high school football coach. Only Texas, A&M, TCU, and UTEP have it. TCU, Sonny Dykes did coach for a year in high school, so maybe we can make it 9. But why do you think that trend has sped up so much over the last 20 years?
Well, you had some guys that have come into this, and I tell coaches, like, don't think I don't walk out on the grass every single day and carry the THSCA flag. Like, I told a story the other day. My very first spring practice, the night before, I'm in my office and I'm going through my individual drills and making sure I knew exactly what was going on. And Coach Rule was like, "Hey, let's go eat." And I was like, "Coach, I got to finish this up." And he was like, I'm the head coach. I just asked you to go eat. And I was like, "Coach, I got to make sure I'm ready to go." And he was like, "Why?" And I said, "When I step on the field tomorrow, I'm stepping on the field for every Texas high school coach that's dreamt about this, that's their goals to do this, and I'm not going to screw it up." And so I think we've had some people come before me, that have had success. I think the connections that you can make being a high school coach and moving to college, you have that connection to where you can pick up the phone and call guys that really know you. And I think it's important, really important nowadays, to be able to have the relationship with an ever-changing roster between the transfer portal and everything else, that you're able to get on the phone with a high school coach and make sure that the parents understand what kind of coach their kid's coming to, we don't want to lose kids to the portal. We want to make sure we're developing and we're here. So I think being a high school coach and understanding those relationships helps. And I think the administrations are really seeing that.
All right, I had a quick question, just one to cap things off. We had your boy Frank Sandoval on, current head coach of West Mesquite, on our watch along during the season, and he mentioned when he was there at Cedar Hill, when you guys played in AT&T, you had a policy with the screen. Could you explain what that policy was? Is my first question, and then 2, did you bring it to Baylor, and can we expect it when Tech gets to AT&T? Can we expect that same policy?
Yeah, when we played for the Big 12 championship, they're not going to be looking up. So, that screen is like you're like a bug to a light. You just, like, it draws you up, and I always told the coaches, I can understand if you're in the box, if you're looking, but I literally looked down the sideline one time and every single person is looking up, and I'm like, guys, that's not where the game's being played. It's being played out on the field. And so there was some guys that, got their tails ripped a little bit. Sandy was probably one of them. But I would tell them going into the games, focus on it. It goes back to what we said earlier, be where your feet are, and don't let that big screen distract you. And it's tough. It's distracting. I've caught myself do it before. But it's just one of those deals of being mentally tough and being focused on the field. And we'll definitely take it when we play for the Big 12 championship. We're going to take it to make sure you're watching what's going on and not looking up.
All right, Coach. We really appreciate the time. Know it's busy. Good luck with spring practice coming up, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. Come out and see us.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Appreciate y'all.
Absolutely.